Bauer,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
and Mutton.
Yes. Is it okay if we skip our break and keep moving through?
Please.
Okay. So we're going to move into Building and Development Services. Next,
Okay, so building and development services. There we go. We
So-
collect,
are you going to go ahead and do a quick overview of what we did in these budgets where
Yes.
we moved P and Z? Before we get into it, let's talk about the high level, what just took place. And if, you know what, if you don't mind, I'd like to address it for just a second.
go right ahead.
You know, I learned something new this year that I found so interesting. And in the past, we've had a development services budget. But it was interesting that our departments were building services and planning and zoning. And so I learned something, and that was that back when the half block was purchased, it was purchased with funds from. When that happened, we depleted the fund, and then we hit the recession. When we hit the recession, we couldn't afford to fund our planning and zoning department. So the planning and zoning department then got moved out of development services into its own in the general fund. And I never could fully understand why we were doing it the way we were doing it. And so that was an aha moment for me. And it was also a good lesson learned, never to fully deplete a fund. Because if you hit a recession, then you're either, you can't afford it, or, I mean, it put the city in a very difficult place. What we're doing today is we're moving planning and zoning back into development services, which is an enterprise fund, and where it originally was. And so that is what also allowed us to make the move in fleet services and so this year we had a couple very significant changes in our budget. Fundamentally, the costs don't change, it's just where they're sitting changes. And so that's what, in this development services budget, you're going to see that shift of planning and zoning coming out of the general fund. It's no longer there. It is now in the enterprise fund, and it is part of the development services budget. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to share that, because I just thought it was so interesting, and it was a learning for me as to how we got where we were.
So this was 2008, Mayor, or when did we?
I think so, about then. It's my understanding. So, Ed, I'll let you go through it.
Okay. So the development services budget obviously accounts for the collection of building permits and inspections. We are forecasting a modest downturn in revenue, mostly because we are not using as much fund balance as we have in past years. So that accounts for the 722 net. Hopefully, we are hopeful that the building permit fees will hold tight and perhaps increase a bit. On the expenditure side, total operating expenditures only increase about 74,000, most notably led by the bank fees that are now being allocated to development services. Also, an increase in the cost of fleet usage. IT transfers are up as there's more utilization. Training, we have broken it out from prior years where we had travel, training, and conferences at 75. We can see now that we're forecasting 26.4 on the training line. I will say that here again, it's a matter of licensing, certification, as folks progress up through the ranks in development services. We are making available, through modest use of fund balance this year, $266,000 for capital expenditure. And over on the next page, unless
Excuse
you
me.
want to
I have a question, Ed.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mayor. Ed, what is the career incentive? That was 10,000, now it's 9. What does that involve?
Patrick?
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, the career incentive is everybody in development services or building department has certifications, whether it's a building inspector, 1 or 2, mechanical, plumbing, electrical inspector certifications. And there's some people that come in and maybe they only have the building inspector 1 position, and that's all they need for their position. And then what we do is we will give them another 50 cents per hour if they can get another certification that is above and beyond what they need to as a basic requirement for their position.
Oh, okay.
So we budget X amount of that. In the past, we paid out maybe $5,000 to $8,000 a year, and it gives people just a slight bump. Also gives them the initiative, people that take the initiative to actually have more depth and we can use them because all of our inspectors are combination inspectors where they have multiple disciplines, that way we don't need to have as many individual types of inspectors because we're covering, one inspector can cover, 1 through 4 disciplines.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Did we need a motion for this, Mayor?
We sure do. If there are no further questions. Yes.
I'll make a motion to pass the Developmental Services Fund.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Building Department and Development Services as proposed. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Bruder,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Power,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
and Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, Planning and Zoning.
Planning and zoning been made part of development services, which will now consist of facilities, building services, and planning and zoning. Planning and zoning brings in approximately $161,000 a year in revenue. Much like administration for public works, planning and zoning will receive help from the development services side to make it whole. The budget for planning and zoning is here. The interesting part of that is that we have an interfund transfer out, which now occurs of $232,000, which has planning and zoning paying for its fair share of general fund services.
So are there any questions from the council? For me personally, it's kind of hard for me when they're not all on the same page because I like to compare 20 to 21, 22.
Yeah,
So it makes it a little harder flipping back and forth. I
Right.
did that prior to coming in. Right now, it's hard for me to do that. But
Well-
they're all in there so that
My
yeah.
accounting hat went on probably a little bit too tight on that as, going from a tax-supported activity to internal service fund, the issue of apples to oranges immediately flooded into the head, so apologize for that.
That's fine. I'm just looking, total expenditures was 705,000 last year. This year, it is suggested that it is 723.
Correct.
My
So-
recollection, yeah, last year, you have to take out the $200,000 worth of interfund transfers, the 232. My recollection is that last year expenses were just over 500,000. No, they were
700.
So it's 705 was total expenses, I just looked, and then this one's 723. So there's not a material shift.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly where that is, but it's not significant. So, are there further questions, or what is the will of the council?
Make a motion to pass this as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Bruder,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Power,
Yes.
and Haverfield.
Yes.
So the Fleet Fund is a document that was handed out, so you should have a hard copy of Fleet. It was in the packet that Ed put out a little earlier. So Ed, talk to us about fleet.
Well, the good thing is, in 1991, when I was implementing the fleet in Maine, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife was so incensed by the fact that we were scooping up all of their assets and putting them into the fleet fund that they had called the Inspector General for the Department of Interior and asked that I be arrested in the Appropriations Committee. Here, we've had better cooperation
And what was the
and
result?
acceptance.
It still worked, right?
Yes.
So how much time did you do, Ed?
Let me say that when the IG showed up, badges and guns and plain clothes, they were not convinced there was any diversion of cash or assets. Anyways, Fleet Fund, again, I think this is a great step forward. We anticipate that we will have about 1.8 million come in. It'll pay for the parts, labor, and moving forward. Included here is a small amount of money to be socked away, I guess, for coming up with a facility for the fleet. Again, we're facing either $400,000 some odd dollar outsourcing of heavy equipment, or making in the next couple of years a little bit of investment in a facility for fleet. And that's basically it. We have tried this year to keep our costs down and keep them level with where we were in '20. There is also, I guess I am remiss now in not including the '20 budget, but even if we had, you would not have seen the full cost of the fleet reflected in the general fund portion. Again, this immediately relieves the general fund appropriation by $900 and some odd thousand.
And total personal services actually went down from 881 to 865. At least as according to the 2020 budget. It was 881, 215, and this
So I see the 200,000, is that if we have the capacity to store other municipality vehicles as we're working on them? Is that what
Well,
that?
this will be including the cost of either renting a facility or putting money away towards capitalization of procuring a facility for the city.
Okay.
One of the long-term hopes is that we can get either by acquisition or by building facilities that are larger.
Right.
In this next fiscal year, if you drop to the bottom, you can see a transfer to fund balance of $134,596. I don't believe we'll be in a position to lease a facility next year, but in fact, we will start the process of reserving.
Again, this is the introduction to this, and as the mayor's indicated, this will all come back before council before any decisions are made on that process. But this is getting us, moving us in the right direction, but it's not committing us to anything in terms of what type of facility, how big it would be, what actual cost we would incur. But it moves us, it positions us so we can make those decisions.
Okay, what's next? Oh, we have to do a motion.
well, we haven't approved fleet.
I'll
So,
make
go
a
ahead.
motion to approve fleet fund budget as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Herder?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
And Machi?
Yes.
Okay. So we have three big items left: grants, impact fees, and then the capital budget. So grants,
Let's move them as presented.
yes. Oh. There you go.
Good one, Ed.
Yeah.
I thought I'd take a shot.
Well,
Wearing down.
actually, I will make the motion. If there's a second and if there's discussion, that's fine, but I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve as written and stated.
Stand by my second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant budget as presented. Is there any discussion or questions regarding the budget?
Darrell, you can ask your question about,
Well, that was explained actually earlier in the day to me, as far as on the grant funds, but if you need any further explanation, probably it'd be beneficial to me.
I trust you.
Okay. That was a question that when Jacob and I met with these two fine gentlemen that I had proposed to them, but this, I felt like it was explained well earlier, so thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table, and if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll call for the vote. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes. Or was that somebody? Sorry. I said, you know what I thought you said? I thought you said Darrell.
Oh, your name is
I'm
Bruner.
just used.
This is Bauer.
Brunner?
I said, I'm fine to be impersonal. Yes.
And Machi?
That was great.
It's kind of been going in different orders, so I'm not
There you go. Keeps everybody on their toes, right?
Yes.
Okay, impact fee fund.
Okay.
Yeah, so impact fees are really interesting. I think it's a really good tool for the city. This year is bifurcated into two pieces. One is the anticipated revenue, and one of my harebrained schemes did not work out. Actually, we should be looking here at total revenue instead of the breakdown that is here. So we are anticipating $6.8 million in total resources, which then will be parsed out in the capital budget. There is a contractual services piece of this, and on the contractual services piece, to go down through what it is, we have an impact fee fiscal analysis study that's being proposed. I'm sure that is to recalibrate the model and update the study. $300,000 is pulled forward from fiscal year '20 as part of the Highway 16 environmental and concept studies. This cannot be capitalized, so it shows as a contractual service. State Highway 45 environmental study for $250, a travel demand model, and $250,000 that gets rolled over on Project Bronco from last year. So that's basically the revenue side. Interestingly enough, as I was reading through the statutes the other day, and I have to talk with the mayor and Doug, I believe that the impact fees actually should be a component of capital projects fund, that the revenue be reflected there and the expenditure reflected out of capital projects, and I think that's like chapter 67, subchapter 82. But anyways, that's what's going on with impact fees. Real business will be in the capital expenditures budget.
Make a motion to pass the impact fee fund as proposed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Bauer. Second. To propose the impact fee budget as proposed and the fund as proposed. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Machi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, so moving to capital budget review. So Ed, how do we want to go through this? We have several specific departments that you have, but then do you have anything you want to do, or shall we just go through those in order?
I just wanted to call the committee's attention, the council's attention to the narrative I think next year, hopefully, Doug and I have talked about this a little bit. I think we want to get used to costing out capital projects on more of a cash flow basis so that we don't come in and ask you for $10 million up front, spend $2 million, and then come back and say, I need $8 million in a budget amendment. It artificially pushes up the budget, right, because we've done it once, we're adding to it. The other thing that I think is very important is that we begin to look at things with a life cycle cost for every capital investment we make. There should be a forecast of what it's going to cost us to operate and maintain the investment over its life, so that you don't end up building a park for $2 million and then find out your budget to operate's got to go up and we're not aware of it. It's going to cost to maintain. All of those things should be factored in. Additionally, I broke everything down so you could see by fund how this ties back to the balances that were remaining in each of the accounts that we spoke about. For instance, the street fund, where we had $3.3 million in excess. It's being channeled into capital all the way down. I have compared expenditures on page 5 of the capital budget back to 2018, actuals, 18-19 the adopted, and have moved forward from there. I also included somewhere in here, I am sure, maybe in the narrative or schedule I'm not seeing in front of me, tried to categorize everything by type of investment being made, buildings, vehicles, other improvements. What do we have? Equipment, software, sewer line replacement, construction projects, and we come down to a total that we're forecasting for this year of $58 million. We have a fairly good forecast for next year. I think if anything got an appropriate amount of consideration, departments did do a fairly good job at forecasting their capital needs for the next year. So with that, Mayor, I am happy to either turn it over to each of the individual departments or try to give you the high level and then turn it over. It's whatever the council and mayor desire.
So I do know, I didn't talk to Darren. I don't know what you have ready. I am aware of transportation. I'm not sure what wastewater's prepared to do. So is Nate prepared to talk to it? Okay, why don't we go ahead and turn it over, and we'll start with wastewater, then we'll move to transportation, just in the order that it is here. And then people can specifically present their capital requests. Does that sound like a plan?
It's a plan, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. You've
Thank
done a
you.
good job, Ed. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with wastewater. And is Nate going to join us via?
Yeah, Mayor, if you can hear me, I'm on.
We can't hear you well. So Doug, could we put the microphone next to the speaker? That microphone,
It's,
just turn it down into that speaker. And then Nate will let you share a screen, hopefully.
Okay.
We'll shift over to Teams. And there you go. We can see you.
Okay, you can see me. I'm attempting to share a PowerPoint. Nice big Public Works Department. Is that? Public Works Department. So we're, as you're all aware, we're made up of 7 divisions, and our total budget is around just over 90 million for FY21. That's what we're proposing. The capital portion of that takes up a good amount. As you can see in your packet, Ed provided a summary This year, Public Works for all the divisions is asking for $51,110,122 in capital. Jeff Barnes, he's the other deputy director. He's over the transportation group. He will present, take over this PowerPoint when I get through. I'm going to kind of focus on wastewater. Wastewater fits within the water group of Public Works. So that includes the irrigation and the domestic and the wastewater, and then our environmental compliance, which handles those erosion control, development, stormwater permits. Jeff's group, the transportation, that's going to include the airport, the fleet, which Ed and the team in Public Works did a great job creating that fund. I think that's going to benefit the city in the long run. Definitely makes Public Works' ability to support the city through fleet much more manageable. And then we also have streets, of course, in that group. The third leg of Public Works, which is critical to our growth and how the city grows, is the engineering department, where Daniel Badger is our city engineer, and you hear him on most every topic before council. So those are our three groups. Our presentation, we're gonna focus on transportation and wastewater to move us through this process. We're coming towards the end of the day. So with Public Works, you know, we basically make it happen for the city. Without the utility investments and aligning Public Works efforts out in the public, the city's initiatives, you know, don't become achieved. And we also really appreciate all your support, council members and the citizens. We've had some great chances on these transportation projects to get feedback. One of the most recent, the roundabout and signal question. We also have the capital projects that we're focused on for today and for FY21. Again, that's the wastewater. Without the place to send the wastewater, you can't grow. And then transportation, you know, just aligns perfectly with the city's core initiatives and echoes what the citizens have told Mayor Kling in their surveys is, you know, public safety #1. I know streets and their work with all the citizens, as well as our other departments on fire and police and fleet, making all the equipment run from parks onward, gets the job done, makes it happen. Investment in infrastructure improvements. You'll see in our capital plan, we have replacement of existing infrastructure so that we can continue to serve those here. We also create economic opportunity through the wastewater plant and supporting development for installing those new sewer lines out into new areas, as well as water and wells and domestic and irrigation. So how do we come to this presentation, this plan, this budget proposed? It's a lot of work that we couldn't have done without past support and through past budget hearings. It's all based on plans. Public Works, you know, we make decisions based on data, and we make those decisions we develop that data based on the needs and directives and guidance of the leaders of the city. So in just recent years, we completed major plans that are airport plan that you've seen come before you. There was the transportation plan. There was the wastewater facility plan, recycled reuse water. And today we're going to focus on two big capital projects that really move the city's initiatives for the city and the mayor and the leaders of our city, is the wastewater plant and the transportation congestion improvements, like those intersections where there's safety concerns and the traffic needs to move through. Now, there's a lot of things in the past where we've had to just kind of leave the hard decisions out there for council. And this year, with Ed's help to guide us to a balanced budget and a zero-cost increase, Public Works really relied on its metrics that it's put in place over the last few years, so we can fulfill our obligation to be transparent, so we can explain to council as well as the public why we make these decisions on these hugely expensive projects. It first starts with our personnel. Public Works personnel, they make it happen, but for them to make it happen, they got to have the right equipment to complete the projects. And how do we define those projects? We use a ranking system that you can see, hopefully can see on the board, where we score projects and start out with those priorities. You can't get to the project if you don't have the equipment, so we make sure that we have the full package, it aligns with the master plans, and then we can present a budget to council that can be defended and explained to the public. We also this year, with the recent COVID, we've reevaluated our fund balances. We've actually doubled the fund balances for the enterprise funds as well as streets. The airport has a smaller fund balance. It's a critical asset to the city, but it is, it does bring in revenue. So, and it's a lot smaller capital budget. So you'll notice that that's not $3 million, but overall we're moving from about $1.5 million on fund balance up to $3 million, trying to take finance's lead and being responsible and prepared for unexpected emergencies. Now, specifically on our wastewater plant, so we're just about to start phase 2 of the construction. We have a huge design build project that will be brought before council here August 3rd. And that will kick off the next major components and upgrades at the plant. This project is designed for a planning year of 2040. So capacity for residential growth for the next 20 years, plus one new large industry similar to Tasco or Amalgamated Sugar. So how do we fund these projects? Well, it's a combination of rates and hookup fees through the existing customers and new development. We have a SRF loan through the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. That's the major funding tool for the wastewater upgrades under phase 2. And then developer installed collection lines. This would be your new development on the outskirts of town. These developments are responsible for extending sewer lines to and through their facility, and it also allows for the city to continue to grow. The focus on the wastewater and the water group focuses on upgrades and growth at the plant, but to do it in a way that's sustainable. The recycled water program is a component of this phase 2. It will allow for a new water resource in the city, as well as marketing to new prospective industries. Public Works and Economic Development working together to find existing customers as well as new customers that have a need for non-potable water that's much cheaper than pumping it through the city's domestic system. It also reduces burden on the city's domestic system. Like Ed said, trying to manage rates, flatten out rates, and provide a quality product for Nampa to grow. We also have a city's funded wastewater trunk line out to the north of town. This is an area that the city identified as for industrial growth and development. It's a potential kind of the next big area to grow in Nampa. And to spur that along, Nampa is in the second year of designing and funding that construction project. We also continue to look at new ways to fund. We hear customers, we hear the citizens, the pressure of the growth. Utility impact fees, that's one way to do that. Jeff will talk about the transportation impact fees and the benefit that that is bringing and the projects that that's allowing us to build. We're also looking at the same concept. It's trying to understand what's allowed under Idaho law for utilities like wastewater and water. Relieve some of that burden from our ratepayers. Now, as far as the wastewater project, it shows up clearly on this graph before you. You see a huge incline in both our revenues and our expenses. The major revenue increase is due to the $165 million that we are being lent through the Idaho DEQ SRF loan. The red line, the huge increase in expenses, that is tied to the wastewater treatment plant, estimated at $190 million expenses. As that line drops and flattens out, you'll see that we're still collecting around 36 million in revenues through our customers and hookup fees. So this is a huge change from where we were just a few years ago, where we were operating a plant that was around a $15 to $20 million budget. By the time we get done with this wastewater project, based on the growth of the city and the cost to meet the new permits and the future of Nampa, to be able to continue to grow, we will be operating a facility around $36 million in annual expenses. Now, to position the city for this huge new capital investment, there's also some capital projects that we have. We have about 295,000 in vehicles. We continue to look for the best way to utilize the city's fleet through our fleet department. For example, streets had an old dump truck. Wastewater needed something to utilize on site. So we were able to save some money there. We're going to do a purchase within the city. We also have additional solids to handle because the city is cleaning the water, removing more phosphorus from the water. We have more solids to haul, meaning we need new equipment to manage that demand. So overall projects breakdown, we have just over 31 million in capital projects, 6.9 million in the collection system. This includes that development trunk line, which we've been saving up from previous years. And then the wastewater upgrades for this year, we plan, and we're seeking $24,480,000 for that project. The fund balance, the plant still has a healthy fund balance. We're planning to use 2.3 million, leaving an ending balance of 6.4 million. And here's a list of the collection system, including the development trunk line. We also are continuing to invest in our existing system. We've had to cut some projects, but we cannot get behind in the maintenance of our old lines, especially we have old lines, clay lines in downtown. We have old metal steel pipes that cross Indian Creek and Mason Creek that need to be upgraded. On the treatment plant, again, 24 million, nearly $24.5 million. Now, $6.3 million of that is contingency fund. This is a fund beyond the project budget for those items that may come up that we don't know about. We've been funding that over the last 2 years. We're in the third year of a 4-year funding program. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Nate? Okay, Nate, we don't at this time. That said, we'll have Jeff go ahead and present. And then we'll move forward from there.
Okay, you can go ahead and
Thank
go to
you.
the next slide, Nate. Nate, you can go to the next slide.
And then let's have Nate turn his, mute his speaker. There we go.
Okay.
I think he's waiting for you to.
Is he it? Nate, go to the next slide. Okay. All right, so we talked about how, we already looked at how we needed to reduce the budget in streets. So this is a diagram to let you know what we did. So first of all, we've been asking for 1% every year to increase funding. This year, we're not. In doing that, it's about $350,000 that we're not seeing in the streets. If you add that to the $910,000 that we didn't see in highway distribution account dollars, then that equals that 1.2 million that we cut our budget. So you can go to the next slide. Nate, are you there, man? You leave me hanging.
I apologize, I believe there's a delay.
Oh,
There-
okay.
There is a delay.
Is there?
There's a delay.
It's gotta go. I was with gonna say, next time have Ashley do this, but we'll give him a break. Okay, how long I'm gonna go?
The delay makes it hard.
Yeah, let's see.
There you go.
Okay, and hit the forward button right now, Nate. Would you do that for me? This is our fund balance right here, and so as you can see, that green line is going below our estimated our needs line. And so we have a funding plan that we presented to the council, and so we took a run at the vehicle registration fees, and we have some other plans to inch that up in the coming years so we don't go below that. Here's our capital summary. I'm just going to briefly touch on this. Vehicles, we have 787,000. Equipment, 120. That's mostly traffic equipment. Software, we want to purchase some software to analyze this, the asphalt pavement. Feel like we can save some money right now. We send a team of about 3 or 4 employees out to look at the asphalt to analyze it every year. City-funded projects, we want to keep our chip seal campaign at $1 million. And I really appreciate the hard work the streets department's done. They have an extra, gosh, they're gonna have an extra month probably in chip seal this year because they doubled that, so they did a great job.
Got an extra zero in there too.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it did. Man. Look at the work we could do. And you can, yeah, here's again our That's just impact 1 fee billion. projects map and our master plan projects. And so we have, a part of our master plan process, we have all this in GIS. So you can go to the next slide. This is a list of the pavement management projects. And again, I just want to highlight a couple of these. One is that Lake Lowell project that we didn't do this year. That was taken off this list, and we kept a lot of the future design projects. We want to keep ahead of those projects in our roadway design. And so you can go, you can move ahead, Nate. If I may, Mayor, Yeah. just a quick question, Jeff. So on Lake Low, which we're not doing, didn't we just do like from Nampa High to 12th? Wasn't that all redone already? So you're just talking about going as far as Nampa High when we eventually do it?
Yeah, Councilman, so we had a grant that we did out in front of Nampa High from 12th to Canyon. So
Right.
We did half the road and all that. Now, this one will take it all the way to Midland, and they'll improve that entire.
So from
corridor.
Canyon to Midland is what you're
From
talking?
actually 12th, half the road there to Canyon, and then all the way a full road improvement to Midland. And then we have a new, we have some, we can tie into the signal there, so we have.
So I'm sorry, full road improvement. Are we talking about sidewalk curbing and totally new pavement? Are we
Yes.
talking about anything underground there as far as water lines, or when we say full improvement, what is that?
Yeah, Councilman, so we
comprehend?
would, any water lines, and I don't have that information in front of me, but the water lines would be replaced if they need to. We're doing a full road rebuild, putting in curb, gutter, sidewalk and an 8-foot wide pathway to connect the pathway on Canyon, which we're gonna tie down into the Wilson Trail. We're gonna tie that over into the Wilson Path to the west.
Okay, so in front of Nampa High, though, as far as the sidewalk and all that, we're not tearing, we would not be tearing that.
No, that's all. We're just gonna tie into that path that we've installed.
All right, thanks.
This is a map of where the pavement management projects are. I wanted to highlight that Middleton corridor, that we're gonna be able to move north now and widen some of those sections and really improve that whole corridor. So we're doing several signals along there right now, so I'm excited about being able to do that. You can move forward, Nate. Doesn't show the, and you can move forward from this also. This is our impact fee projects. One thing it didn't show back there is the amount of residential chip seal. We just left that off. We haven't designated those exactly, but we'll look at the pavement condition index. This is a list of all the intersections that we're doing around the city with the impact fee dollars, and some of people's most favorite intersections are going to be taken care of. We've discussed Midland and Lake Lowell, but Midland, Iowa, Victory and Kings, Idaho Center and Cherry. So this is pretty encouraging that the impact fee program is starting to work its way into the system. So you can move forward, Nate. We do have a few grants that we were looking at. The transportation grants are getting a little tougher to find. It's a little bit more competitive, so we're starting to go after national grants. You can go to the map next. But we do have some in the pipeline right now, and they're excellent. There's millions of dollars worth of grants that we're working on right now. So a couple to highlight out on Franklin and Third and Franklin and Karcher, we're putting in major improvements, $5 million improvements. Putting a signalized intersection at Sunnybrook in front of Walmart on Greenhurst, and we have some pedestrian projects. And with that, that is a list of the capital projects we have for 2021.
So, Mayor, question. So what is our projected timeline for Midland, as far as my understanding, eventually 5 lanes, right?
So
I mean, with the turning lane?
You're talking about the intersections on Midland?
No, I'm talking about the road itself.
Okay, so Midland, there is we have a plan with the planning department to look at that corridor, future width, future use, gain public input, and then really come back and say, okay, what do we need to do? That whole stretch from Greenhurst all the way up to the Caldwell Boulevard is in our master plan.
Right. You don't have an ideal projected. I mean, realize things have to fall in place, but
Yeah, we were estimating $10 to $15 million. It's a super expensive project, so
Okay.
we'll know more in a year and a half when we get done with that concept.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Jeff? Great job.
Okay, thank you.
Great job. So it's interesting, I'm just trying to find, when we're looking at our actual hard copies, it's interesting because I'm trying to find the page that has it by actual department, by wastewater, by transportation, because we've got it by land, buildings, but they're all mixed up. So can you send me to the page, and I'm looking on my PDF versus my book, and maybe I should be on my book, because I'm almost thinking we should be approving these by department. And I'm trying to find the by department
Nate, do you want to give me
totals.
back control, Nate?
I guess we don't have the breakdown by department, we have the summary, I think.
We have,
I'm trying to find the one location in all of our sheets that has, for example, all the individual capital projects for wastewater, just that one side, and then all the capital projects for streets.
the way that it is put together is by department with the detail behind it of all the capital projects that are being undertaken by the department. So if you were to go to page 26 of your packet, You could, in fact, isolate this by department, because the detail is there
Perfect.
by department.
Exactly what I had just gotten there, and that's exactly what I was looking for, because I think we should probably, it might be wise, because it's also by fund.
Correct.
Well, the vehicles are part of the fleet plan, but that's street, so, I'm just trying to think how we need to process through this carefully to where we can approve as we go. For example, I'm down on water fund, since Nate finished. The total request, capital request, is $3,516,000 in the water fund. That does have the water division's building remodel. It has 3 vehicles. Those are funded out of the water fund, correct? Because everything in here would be out of the water fund. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be an easier way to approve something, is by department.
So if you go to 27, you can find the water department is gonna have the 500,000 for the building remodel, then 54,000 for replacement of light-duty pickup, so it is detailed out.
So did everybody find that page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm just wondering if this is the total. So let's look at between pages 26. Does the total of 26 and 27, and let me get down here, equal our total?
Yes, it should.
And then we go into page 28, which equals 55 million. Was that our total when we're on another page? So if that is correct, then maybe what we do is we go back up to page 26 and we consider approvals by department as we go through. Would that be easy for the council?
Yeah.
So, because we've finished wastewater and streets. Because I think if we wait till the end, it's gonna get a little harder. So,
Mayor,
although airport, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna make a motion, that would, I was just gonna combine those two, that's what we mainly heard on at this point, but, we're not gonna have to, we're not listening to every one of these, are we? Unless
No,
we have questions?
not unless we have questions. So why don't we, I think right now, let's just shift to page 26 and go down, starting at
I'll make a
streets.
motion to accept the capital projects for wastewater and streets. And I'm willing to make more also, but those would be the two that we've heard on.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the streets and wastewater capital budgets as proposed. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
There's aspects of this that I have issues with, so I'm going to vote no.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Berner?
Yes.
So, if we follow the sheet, and I should pull out my book because I'm looking at the PDF, the next item is stormwater. Is that what you guys are seeing on your sheet?
So I'm trying, you know me, I try to save time, so, I mean, I would go ahead
Stormwater,
and make a
airport.
motion to accept the capital projects for stormwater, airport, grant funds, and impact fees, impact fee fund streets.
I'll second that.
Okay, so discussion. So I think I'll pause and ask, so Councilman Haverfield, or actually Sandy Councilwoman Levi, do you guys have any discussion or questions? Because we've had a motion to approve, just to make sure, stormwater, airport, the grant funds, and the impact fee funds for streets.
Mayor Kling, I have issues with, I had issues with the approval of additional monies for a roundabout at Midland and Lake Lowell, which these numbers are rolling money over from last year and this year for that project that I don't agree with, so I'm not going to support the motion as it's proposed. I'm just one person of six.
Thank you. Councilwoman Leva?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little bit confused as to where we're going, listening to Councilman Haverfield's comment, because I was thinking that came under transportation, and then the motion that was just made was the stormwater airport impact fees, and I'm not seeing that listed in that manner in my agenda, and I'm wondering what I'm missing.
He's got everything on the first page, basically.
It's on, we're following the actual document in your book. And they're ordered a little differently, but than the actual agenda, but they're on the agenda. It's just, they're all kind of lumped together, vehicles, facilities, and equipment. But it was done in such a way that some of the vehicles, it's been presented in a couple different formats. And so this, I decided, is the easiest format to look at. So if you go to page 26 in your book.
Right.
Very end.
Yeah, it's at the very back. We're going to look at page 26 and 27 and go line item, go section by section.
So that's what excuse me, Mayor, so that's what I was looking at, but as I'm keeping my notes on my agenda, I was trying to figure out where that was listed on the agenda as
Well-
far as stormwater airport impact fees, and so I was wondering if I was missing something.
Actually, stormwater and impact fees is not listed, we approved the impact fee budget,
Right.
but the impact fee approvals, it's not worded the same way, but it's streets. It's the construction, it's the streets presentation that we just saw. Here it says impact fee funded streets, and so it's the streets. And actually, technically, that would have been approved under the streets presentation. Here it was listed out as, because it's impact fees funding it.
On the agenda?
But it lists different itemized projects under impact fee fund streets.
It does.
I would just, my motion for streets was just those items that were
In streets,
listed there, itemized under streets, yes.
right?
Just
So-
clarification.
So the next item, when we move past stormwater airport grant funds, those are streets projects that are funded through impact fees, which is separate. So unfortunately, our agenda doesn't exactly follow the way this document does, but it's easier to follow a document that has the breakout to actually look at what you're approving. So if you look at page 26, and we just go down that, it's the easiest way to follow it.
Mayor Kling, I can support some of this, but I can't support all of it. The way that it's proposed, it's just all encompassing. And so if the motion were to be pulled and then made to be for stormwater and then for airport and then for grant funds, I can support that. But this all-inclusive, add everything.
Impact fees is what you're not supporting, Councilman?
Not the way that it's listed there as far as one of the line items, but,
Okay.
and the first decision has already been rendered as far as for streets. So now as we go through, if you want to hit them one at a time, then I'm okay with that. I'm just one person.
I have no problem helping with that if we want to amend the motion to not include impact fees, so we could do airport grant funds.
So Mayor, if I may ask, Councilman Haverfield, is it just mainly because of the impact fees being used for the roundabout at Lake Low and Midland? Is that what's keeping you, or is there something else besides that?
Well, just to be transparent, the impact fee fund for streets does list impact fees specifically for Midland and Lake Low intersection. And I didn't agree with the decision when it was rendered at our last council meeting, so I don't support it now. So if you want to go back and if your motion is for stormwater, airport, and the grant funds, those 5 items, I can support that, but I would be not supporting
I'm not into
impact.
changing my motion at this point in time. I think we just take a vote. We have a second, and I would call for a vote.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Machi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
No?
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Berner.
Yes.
So that completes page 26 and the top of page 27. And then we move to the capital fund. So when that says capital fund vehicles, I'd like a little bit, it seems like these are police.
Yes.
Are they
And-
all police?
Engineering's in there, Ford Ranger,
Yeah. We've got,
pickup.
most everything here is,
Animal control.
is related to the police. We've got 2 Fords at the top for $55,000, which are code enforcement. We have a replacement of a Ranger for engineering at 25. Another $28,000 pickup for engineering. And then we have the CSI van. We have replacement of 8 police patrol vehicles, 2 undercover units, 4 CSO vehicles, and an animal control vehicle. That makes up the balance of what is coming out of the capital fund. They are currently budgeted as general fund vehicles.
What is the total capital fund coming out of our facility franchise fee? What's our total capital budget?
It's $1,546,000, I believe. Let me just go back to the beginning of the,
So what I'd like to know is I'd like to be looking at what all is in that one fund, because we've got it kind of mixed and matched in here, and I'm having a really hard time tracking it. Because I'd like to be able to prove the capital budget with everything in that one capital budget with the detail in there. And I'm not finding it in one location with detail.
so the capital fund is going to be made up of this is a curveball, but we can handle it.
Thank you. I just have a really hard time approving a budget if I can't tell what's in that budget.
Okay, so, we have a total of $476,000 that I'm asking for in, capital projects, for, facilities. You can find that on page 14. We have $99,704 for elevators, $77,250 for modernization. We have $86,901 for City Hall security and access control, $42 for fire alarms, $23 for security camera replacement, $147 for electrical.
So Mayor, question.
That's one
aren't-
piece. Then,
I'm sorry, Mayor, question. Aren't we just going to, after we get done with the Public Works, aren't we going back to these other departments and look at their itemized, and if it's more capital projects, aren't we then approving
Well,
those
they're
separately?
mixed in. What
So
I'm
do they-
struggling with how we've got this done because I'm not able to track it.
So do they overlap? I mean, I guess I'm not understanding.
They do, I mean, it's
Do you-
hard
you
to
have-
give
do you
you a
have a-
comprehensive capital budget and break it down by fund, because it's, honest to God, it's fairly meaningless. I mean, when you have a department that brings in $87 million in revenues and is spending out $87 million in capital and operations,
But our franchise fee, I mean, that capital budget that we're doing, because we have always functioned within a certain, it's like a lot of our facilities are coming out of the capital fund.
Right.
That needs to all be together because we need to see what's totally in that fund. So if you can point me to that
Right.
page,
but
That I
it
can-
is, I'm not sure if I have it detailed by fund for every single request. I pretty much focused on proving it out by department and tying it to departments.
So, let me ask you a question, Mayor. I think this is where you want to go, isn't the detail, the total. This is the capital fund. Here's the $1 million from the franchise fees, and here's the additional spend that he's transferring in for the, what he references, $1.5 million in capital spend. If I'm correct, you want to see what makes it that $1.5 million in
I
capital
do.
spend. So that's what we want to see. Do you have that anywhere in there that we can get?
It is not broken out by fund. It's broken out by department.
So, but is it broken out by department within general gov?
It's broken out so that each category being funded is put together by department, by fund. So you've got, that's how I approached it. So it's easy enough to put together.
Perhaps, this is, we've already done the major, this is the last one left.
this is the, yeah.
Okay.
Well, for example, fire, capital fund fire department has a request in here for $575,000. Is that the only request that's coming from fire?
For 21, yes, 75,000 is for breathing equipment, which would be general fund. 500,000 is coming out of impact fees for the design of Station 6.
So what, we could focus on that one really easily and knock that one out, because that is one specific one as per our agenda, which is Napa Fire.
I have some, and there again, it's future too, because I love this planning for the future, but I do have fire questions, which would entail, part of that would be the design, so whether that would be Nick or,
So let's move to fire and let's address that. While, Ed, you think for a minute of how we can total that budget under Gen Gov and see what all is in there that we could pull together, and we could talk to Nick about the fire budget. Because if we go,
Actually, Chief Carpenter.
Chief Carpenter's on the line. Okay.
okay,
My first question, because we are blessed to have an architect on this council. The first was design, $500,000 for a fire station. And I'm not understanding. I realize our other fire stations are somewhat old, but I'm not understanding. A fire station, I would think, needs to incorporate certain things. I'm not understanding why it would take $500,000 to spend to design a fire station when there's fire stations all over the country, and we can see, and there's certainly designs already in place. Maybe Councilman Haverfield, can you speak to that at all? I know you haven't probably done fire.
I didn't build their budget. I have questions about their budget as well, and my response to Kirk was, we need to talk, because these numbers are double, at least double what they should be. But then again, you can always go less, but these numbers are too high.
The numbers that you're seeing there came from checking in with just our surrounding departments, what they just paid for architecture and engineering, design of their plans for the recent station built in Meridian and in Caldwell.
And how large are these facilities, Kirk?
They're actually smaller than the one that, they actually are 4 bedrooms less, 1 bay less than what we're looking to put out on Roosevelt.
You know how big as far as square footage?
Man, right off the top of my head, I can't remember for sure. For some reason, 13,500 square feet is what's in my mind, but I would have to go back into my emails and get the exact square feet.
Even at 20,000 square feet, the facility cost of construction is pushing $400 to $500 a square foot, which is not, that's totally unreasonable in today's bidding climate.
We're actually seeing 400 being the base in the people that we're talking to. What you see there is a quick estimate from someone that is currently building Caldwell's fire station, and we met with them early on, and they thought that they could get it significantly lower than what Meridian had paid for theirs, which they ended up paying right under $4 million for theirs with the less space. That is the estimate that came back from the company that's currently building Caldwell's fire station.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is this fire station design such that we could not use an existing design that we have? We've built other fire stations. Are none of them sufficient in design to where we could use a design that we already have?
I would tell you no. The stations we have, Station 1 obviously built and remodeled a long time ago, last remodel in the 80s.
Station 5. Let's go to Station 5. We just built one a few years ago.
Station 5 was built in 2006 and 7, and I would tell you that the floor plan of that building is not efficient. We could build a much better efficiency building than that building for sure. There's a lot of wasted space in the building, and the flow of the building doesn't really match well with what we could do with today's design. We were initially in on the design efforts with Meridian and Caldwell. This would have been about 4 years ago when they started that design work. So I was on the committee that started those design plans, but we never were able to get into a position that Nampa was looking to build, so they moved on without us at one point about 3 years ago.
So Mayor, if I may, and maybe this is for Councilman Haverfield also, and I mean, I know you can't copy a book or something, there's copyright laws. So are there laws where like even a station in Tri-Cities that has been built that we see and say we like that design, is it illegal or unethical to share a design of something that's already built?
Not at all.
I mean, surely there's a fire station already has been designed and built where we don't have to start from
These are not that complex of a structure. You're talking about 3 open bays, most likely, and then an administrative area, and then some sleeping rooms. It's not that, there's no way that $500, that's what this is working out to be, is a number that we should even be considering.
I was shaking my head. I want this to happen, but it would just, it doesn't
Well,
make sense.
you can look at
Nothing. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, you can look on the campus of your university and the library that's just been built, the new student center that's just been built, and I can provide those numbers, and they're well under what this is being proposed to be built for. And those are pretty nice facilities if you get a look at them. Now there's,
Mayor, I'm going to get off track, if I may, just a little bit. This is future, and I know Chief Carpenter appreciates you and your team so much. I know we've discussed this past months and so on. The purpose of this station is to have less time. I know this is a needed area, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much here, and maybe this is future discussion, but how many fires in the area what this station would cover? How many? I mean, I realize we're building, but how many fires in the whole city of Nampa have we actually, house fires I'm talking about? And I know you had examples and pictures. Have we been out to in the last year?
We average about, basically, we take an average over the years, we average right around 100 structure fires. Some of those are residential, some of them are commercial in nature, most of which we are able to, given the right location, we're able to keep to the room of origin. Some of the examples we showed you in your packet was examples of where we're seeing, especially in those areas of longer response times, where we're seeing events where we used to be able to keep them to that room of origin, and now we're seeing them spread into the structure itself and begin to cause damage further than what is acceptable in the realm of saving life and property.
Right,
I could get you the exact number of structure fires that we've responded to per year.
And what I'm looking for, I think you know where I'm going. So where does that, in comparison, as far as a paramedic type situation or health situation, how many calls?
Structure fires themselves they equate to between 3 and 4% of our annual call volume, where medical calls that you're speaking to are right around 65 to 68% of our call volume.
Okay.
Remaining or service calls and good intent and hazardous material rescue, those type of things.
Right. And I won't move too much. Are we hoping for another squad type vehicle then at this? So since only 3% are fire, where we're going to have a squad vehicle where we can get to health emergencies in a quick fashion?
We're actually, we are wanting a full engine complement for full service for both fire and EMS out of Station 6.
Okay. And how are we partnering there again? This is getting in the weeds, I know, but how are we partnering? I know we've had this discussion before. How are we partnering with the county paramedics as far as them being able to maybe be in the structure with us, be able to get to places quicker?
It's on their strategic plan to both be in Station 6, which would be that least revenue opportunity, as well as once Station 4 becomes fully available to the fire department, they are also on their strategic plan.
So we are partnering with them.
Yes.
That's terrific. And as far as but I mean, just logic, and it's been a long time. I didn't do another ride along, but normally in most cases where all these calls for health related incidents are, I don't want to be in competition here, but are the county paramedics? For a while, we were both going to all these calls. I think from a dispatch standpoint, maybe that has changed. So,
yes.
So if we need to if we have an emergency from a dispatch standpoint where we have a heart attack or whatever the case is, are both entities still going out to these calls, or is whoever's closest, or how's that working?
Yes, for the example given for a heart attack, yes, both Canyon County paramedics and Nampa Fire would respond for the manpower of the 5-person crew for that type of emergency. Where you see us only responding one or the other is based upon the type of call. If it's medical in nature but non-life threatening, we reduce those calls to where it would just be Canyon County. A lot of those would be like at our nursing facilities where they have care on staff there. You would also see it in when a fall victim would just be the fire department, where we're just going to help someone pick themselves up and get them back into their daily routine.
Okay.
So they're not injured, we're just assisting them.
Okay.
So we have those types of reductions in calls.
Two more questions. I will be quiet, I promise.
You're right.
The next one is then if both are, if we're actually responding, then who normally gets to a serious emergency first? Do we ever track that? County, fire?
Within our response districts for stations 1 through 5, unless Canyon, who is stationed out of Station 1, happens to beat us down the pole, I would suggest 90% of the time we're on scene before Canyon County paramedics. It would only be in those instances where you're seeing us having overlapping calls where Station 2 is already out on a call. We get a secondary response to Station 2's area where we're having to send another station, whether it be 1, 5, or 4. And those are the moments where you see Canyon being able to be there prior to us. Their location's just not as strategically located as us, as well as they cover the whole county rather than just our city and our citizens. So it is a rarity for them to be on scene first. And that was one of the reasons in the early 2000s that we went to an ALS type program, because we were sitting on scene for minutes on end waiting for paramedics to arrive.
And then they're the only ones that transport. Okay.
Mayor Clean.
And so they're the only ones that transport. Final question, and then I will, then, I thought we had discussion then a few months ago that when we put this Station 6 in, there actually could be a transfer of personnel where we wouldn't actually be hiring. In this packet here for the future budget concerns at 1.2 million or whatever, that's as if we are hiring all new firefighters.
Yeah, what you were presented with was a traditional hiring. That we do know that there are other options for manning the station. With what we were presenting, we were trying to show that currently we're already at a significant, we would suggest 30% low on our firefighter per 1,000. If we were to man Station 6 without an additional hiring, we're taking an already extended and worn employee base and pulling them out further. We're just, I guess the administration currently feels we would be kicking the can down further the road. At some point, we do need to hire personnel.
Okay. That's changed. That's all I did. Thank you so much. I appreciate you letting me go in the weeds here.
You're fine.
That was
And
more information. Kirk, just real quickly, and I know Councilman Rodriguez has a question, but that was included for more information, but we're going to have a separate discussion on that outside of today, because I think it warrants it, right? I think we'll need to come back and we just talk about Station 6 staffing and all that is not a discussion for today for capital. And I'll come back after Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. Kirk, last time we talked about Station 6, isn't impact fees going to pay for this thing?
Yes, so the current request today for design and architecture would be coming from impact fees. The impact fee amount that Councilman Haverfield asked about earlier would not be up to the amount needed to build the building. So we are going to have to look at other options, whether that's leasing the building with impact fees. But impact fees are fully what Station 6 should be used to build Station 6.
So at this point, should we approve the maximum amount of 500,000, but actually go below that, I guess, if we could?
I think it's a really good question. I think what I'm hearing from the council, and I think this is something I'd like to say to fire, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but based on discussions I've had, the council is supportive of Fire Station 6. Yes. I think we all recognize the need for that. But I think we all recognize that we're trying to be good stewards, and I appreciate Randy's perspective, knowing what the cost per square foot is and the cost of design is, and we're not willing to do that. So that's the discussion. But Patrick has stepped up. So Patrick,
Mayor and Council, I have a point of information for you.
Okay.
The overall cost of around $6 million for this fire station is actually a projected cost with inflation, where it would be built somewhere 11 years down the road after we've collected all the impact fees to build this.
Not Station 6.
Not Station 6.
We're talking Station 6 that needs to be done right now.
So are you pulling that out now to do now? Because I was just saying originally for impact fees, Station 6 is in the impact fee study, which is the basis for our impact fee collection for the next 10 years. So I was just putting that out there, that if we're talking about the future station under the impact fees, that's 10 years down the road.
Well, I think in our impact fee study, I could be wrong, but we have Stations 6, 7, and 8 that are in there.
6 and 7.
6 and 7, okay, but 6 we've needed for, is the last 9 years? So 6
11.
is something we're trying, go ahead.
Yeah, we had it projected per call volume and keeping the level of service that we were providing in 2007. You're correct, Mayor. 2011 was the year we would have wanted to open Station 6.
Right. So we're well behind the time frame. So this particular station, we're going to try to find a way to get it done before that. So, but I think, just to cut to the chase, there's a concern about the cost for design. So what we want to do is we want to get it done. And we want to
Yes.
use every penny we've got and use it well and figure out how we can afford it. Because if you spend 500,000 on a design, then that's the less money that you have available to actually build that station, and we need to get it up and running.
Right.
So
I think, Mayor, if I could, the main reason we're looking for approval to use impact fees, we need a design to give council an idea of what you're looking at is only an estimate based upon square foot and a detailed list of items we would need within the station. There is no way for this administration to provide a budget of construction until we have a design to send out to bid. So the first step really is and again, I don't think there's any disagreement with you. I understand the council is in support. I've never heard anything but support from this council on Station 6. And I would hope that you guys understand that the leadership of the fire department, of course, if we could do design and engineering cheaper, then we would. We definitely would want to make sure that it's on pace to open Station 6 as quickly as possible. But of course, we want to be good stewards of that impact money. We need it to go way into the future, and we don't have enough of it already. So
I'm going to make one more comment, and that is, whenever we approve a budget, even if this is a design and we know it's not going to be there, we've made a public statement. And what I see in the municipal environment is our bids come in to match what we just budgeted. And that really makes me mad. I'm tired of it. I'm frustrated with the cost. I feel like sometimes we as a city get charged rates that, and I understand sometimes that it is more expensive to build for a municipality, but sometimes I think we also are getting charged excessively for the work that is being done. So with that, it's a little concerning. So I'm not sure, Randy, I don't know if we can take a break too. So is there a discussion that we can, what do you think?
Well, again, I have a concern about the dollar amount. What I see presented to us, I can't support. So, I mean, if somebody wants to make a motion to allow this, we can make the motion. I can't support it because I don't, like Darrell said, I'm an architect. So I deal with numbers and I deal with design and what it takes to put a facility like this together, working with a contractor. If what information has been provided to Kirk and his staff is contrary to that, I'm not sure who they're talking to. I just know from my perspective, in the world that I deal with the contractors and subcontractors and where the numbers come, you can inflate them with a concern about inflation, or you can be realistic with what it costs today and then look at maybe an escalating factor, but not 2 to 3 times the amount that it should be. So that's my personal feeling. Again, I mean, I would be willing to, and I can't really say this because I don't want to get contrary to the process, but a simple concept put together like Midway Park, if that's going to save 25% of the cost or more, I'm more than willing to offer that service at no cost to the city, just to get us a little bit further down the road so people aren't guessing what the facility's going to be. And that's what I heard Kirk say. They really don't know how they can actually price it without some documents. And it's not that hard to put together a 3-bay fire station for someone to use for pricing purposes. And I've got access to the construction field out there that I'd be more than happy to get it in front of 2 to 3 contractors to get some numbers from a preliminary standpoint. My goal is to help them get this built. And again, staffing it, like Darrell mentioned, there's other ways to maybe look at relocation of a current piece of apparatus and its crew, rather than having to hire 12 new people right now. But we're building toward the future. We're seeing at least movement, and we're moving the ball further down the field. Right now, and what was mentioned is that there's $500,000 available in the major acquisitions fund. And then there was $1 million available in impact fees. That's $1.5 million towards a $2.5 to $3 million project. So, I mean, we're getting really close already. And then the possibility of leasing a facility, build to lease it. There are other ways to maybe approach it where we can get it done sooner than later.
So would the council be open to authorizing a different figure but pending approval by council. In other words, for the budgetary standpoint, because we have two things that happen here. You've got the budget process that we need to approve something so that we can move forward, because I think the intent is we want to get it done. But we also want to ensure that we are not spending money foolishly, because we need a fire station. We need it. I mean, there's no question, we need to get it done, we need to move forward, we need to not sit on it. So, I don't know, the thought that comes to my mind is, how about if we say we would authorize up to 300,000? It's not 500, it may not, we may have to come back, but at least authorize us to move forward. But I think the instructions would be, let's get out and see if there's another station somewhere that would work on that property, that we could go back and maybe even have some adjustments to a blueprint that is already constructed. I bet we can go out to some other departments and see what's out there, and it may be that there's one that's really close, and that we could use their drawings and adapt it from there, which would save us some money.
Well, even the city of Nampa has built 5 stations. That there might be a flow pattern that is worthy of this site, or at least, modifications of it. And again, I'd be more than happy to sit down with Chief Carpenter and maybe come up with some concepts that would work for him.
And that would be awesome, so it would at least get us off of square one.
And
Mayor, thanks. So I'll make a motion, I guess, is to put a cap on this thing with 300,000 based on approval of the city council for further discussion regarding the architectural cost. How's that?
And then there's also a request for 75,000 in the MAP fund contribution for the breathing apparatus.
That's correct.
Okay, so for a total of 375,000?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Okay, seeing no second, then it would fail unless there's a second.
I think it's still too much.
I'm kind of waiting on we have expertise in different areas, and I'm kind of waiting for our councilman to make a motion if he thinks one's worthwhile to make, so that's what I'm pausing on.
Well, I guess maybe Kirk can answer a question. What is the intent of the design? Is it a full set of working drawings, or just conceptual work to be able to price for maybe a fiscal year 2022 build?
The goal would be 2020, you're correct, the 21-22 build. So begin building in next budget year and complete it in the 21-22 budget year. So I don't know, would we be able to get a full quote on estimates with a partial drawing, or a drawing that was just well, I don't know what the right word would be, just without detail, without electrical and engineering and mechanical details?
Well, again, I know that you can get the full set of working drawings, including civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and architectural. And the number that I was thinking was 200,000. And then what was the other number of the apparatus?
75,000 is the MAP fund contribution with the fire district for self-contained breathing apparatus.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to cap the number at 275,000 to include design of the Napa Fire Station number 6. And again, with the caveat that if the chief wants to, I'm available to him to help him come up with a conceptual design to be able to get into the hands of whoever he wants to get him into the hands of.
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we approve 275,000. That's 200 for Station 675 for the self-contained breathing apparatus. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm not able to vote on this, but this has to happen. We continue to approve growth in South Nampa when we continue to see that we don't have the proper safety, public safety infrastructure, and I will not vote for any more growth in that area if we don't have concrete plans to start to really put the public safety infrastructure in. So my only concern with the 275 is, Councilman Haverfield, can you absolutely confirm that 200 will get it done?
If I were to go out today, if I wasn't on this council, and we wanted to go with a design-build approach for that facility, I could guarantee what I could have it built for.
Okay, so I'm saying you can, I can't vote, but you can guarantee that it will get done for what is approved today for capital.
The design,
Uh-huh,
certainly.
okay.
But I'm not allowed to do it. See, that's the problem. I can't stamp the drawings. I can do all the drawings.
Right, I know,
can't
but you're
stamp
saying you can guarantee it with your motion, but then if it fail, if you're not able to do it, then where are we
Let me
again?
put it this way. If I do all the drawings and all you have is someone to stamp the drawings, certainly, I will have saved the city about $400,000.
Right, which I'm absolutely grateful for, but I know there's also some limitations on that. So if you can get it done, but this has to get done.
But what you're saying is you can go ahead and do the work, but someone else has to put their stamp on it, which
Yeah.
would be a
At the end of
cost.
the day, what's been stated to me is, because I've offered to do other work for the city, I can't have a contract, even if it's an indemnification where I'm doing something for nothing, because of the potential liability that I guess it's out there. But the reality behind this is, we're talking about spending precious dollars for something, and then it's inflated. So at the end of the day, I'm looking after the taxpayers' best interests. If it's not perceived that way, that I don't belong on this council. But I'd be more than happy to step off the council and provide the service to the city for half of what you're asking to spend, because I see that over and over and over again, and it bothers me.
And
It
that's
just-
not what I'm trying to imply. What I'm saying too is I'm concerned about taxpayers who don't have.
I
the
understand what you're
public
concerned
safety
about.
response.
Yeah.
So I think it's dual.
Yeah, I think the one thing, as I said earlier, that we all agree on is we've got to get it done.
Absolutely.
We have got to get this done, and that's the good news for the fire, is that you're hearing us all say we're committed, we've got to get it done, our community deserves it, and we are continuing to approve things, and we need to pause because we're not providing the service and the time frame that we need to be able to. So I think we're all in agreement that we've got to get it done, and so we're going to be creative and figure out how to get it done. How's that?
So we can call for a vote. We got a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Abstain?
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
Mayor and Council, I do want to thank you very much. Councilman Haverfield, of course, anything that this leadership team can do to further our dollars into the future for us, we're willing to do. And in fact, we put great pride and effort into those tasks. So, of course, we would be willing to accept your help and guidance through the process. We are a pretty new leadership team, but we do see this as the highest risk for our community when it comes to emergency medical and fire service. So thank you to the council for the support. We do know that you all have Station 6 as a priority in your minds and hearts. So I appreciate the time.
Mayor, and Kirk, I support what you're doing, support your department, and appreciate all you're doing for our community. And I just want to help you have the facilities you need to be able to take care of us better.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to Parks and Rec now. And then we will have gone through the capital budget review, and we'll skip down then to Gen Gov, and we'll wrap up this last line on the agenda. But we'll go to Parks and Rec right now, and go ahead, Darren. I think you're up.
Okay. Yeah, Mayor and Council, thank you. We'll, don't have a presentation, but we can go through this list. This list on ours, it's on page 21, at least on this page that we printed. And just as the structure, it goes down on the left-hand side, it has Parks and Recreation, so we could talk about Parks and Recreation and approve that. Then next is the Recreation Center, followed by the golf courses, our grants, and then impact fees. And so we'll just go in this order if that works for you. And I think we'll have, I'll ask Cody to come up and talk about the park section, if that's okay, and we'll just kind of go through that list.
Mayor, I would just soon ask questions if
Okay.
you have questions on
Yeah.
any of this.
Okay.
And my only question that I have in yellow here is, I would like to know more detail on what the rec center building expansion, design and construction, what that, actually for 1.5 million, what we are going to see out of that.
Yeah, so, Councilman Bruner, this past year, we have budgeted money for design and construction documents. We have met with Councilman Haverfield, kind of looking at a plan of an expansion. And so the expansion is more classroom space, larger weight rooms, larger workout areas into the back. And so,
So which direction I mean, I guess I should have seen the plan somewhere. What direction are we going here? And
so
how many square
we're
feet?
still working, where we're at right now is we've been working with facilities.
Okay.
And we've put together an RFQ document that has, and then we're continuing to meet on that RFQ document. And so it'll go out to find a designer. We'll put that out and get a designer on board. And that will complete the design. It'll have all the way to bidding and construction documents for this year. We expect it to be a little further along than we are right now, and so it'll probably be really pushing by the end of this fiscal year before we have, those completed. Actually, the construction documents probably will be completed this year at the rate we're moving. And so we anticipate, we put in 1.5 million on this particular budget. Next year, we have another million. We expect this project to span over 2 fiscal years. We're expecting that it will be about 13,000 to 15,000 square feet addition. And talking to Councilman Haverfield, we kind of kicked around 200 per square foot. And so that's how we kind of came just right around that. Now, we recognize that, by this time next year that we're budgeting for 2022, that by that time we'll have exact numbers and it'll be bid out and we'll know exactly what to put in next year's budget. We do have a fund balance of about 3.5 million in the rec center right now. That is how this is funded, is through the fund balance. Now, we're kind of in an odd time right now. We'll reevaluate, by the time, originally we expected that by the time this was all completed, if we didn't spend anything, we'd have a fund balance of about 4.5 million. But this year's a little bit different, and we won't make that goal. So we do understand that before, and it would come before council, before that it goes out to bid, that we'll see the nature of where we're at that particular time. Even if things are slow, it might be a good time to seek construction, knowing that someday that we'll be right back to where we were, and it could work to our benefit in terms of memberships and participation at the rec center.
Thanks.
So,
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry if I missed this. So what's going to be the new space? Is it going to be a bigger weight room?
Yes, it would be a bigger weight room. There would be classroom space for our, to move exercise classes there, kids in our day camp program, gymnastics. As a matter of fact, we would like to we see right now gymnastics is taking up some of our basketball court. And so we can move gymnastics to a much cheaper space by adding on. And then that would open up another basketball court that they're on right now. So it would be moving that gymnastics space.
I have a quick question about, just because I said in that meeting with you the other day regarding your advanced oxidation at the rec center, as
Okay.
I'm looking at your budget here, and if that one, if you find that there's another one that's more effective, you would switch that out. And I would
Yes.
hope that the budget, we would approve the funding, but if it's not, if you're finding that the one that you've got, because you purchased one already, and you're trying to identify if it's producing the results that you want.
Right.
So you'll
Right.
confirm that before you get this next one, I would assume. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Mayor, if there's not any more questions, I'll make the motion that we pass the capital projects for parks, recreation center, golf courses, grant fund parks, impact fee parks for $5,569,900.
Second. Did you say cemetery?
Did I say what?
Did you say cemetery?
Oh, is there a cemetery on?
Not in
No,
this
not
one.
in this one? Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So just a couple questions. I just want the confirmation of the funds that these are coming out of. So, because on this particular sheet, I don't think I'm seeing what fund it's coming from. And so, what of the,
I could walk you
if you
down
would,
each
real
one.
quickly, I think it's important that we know what's impact fees and if it's out of fund balance.
It appears that the parks and recreation, mostly that would come out of park fund balance,
Okay,
the way it looks, with the exception of maybe 167,000 or so would be covered in what the revenue's already there.
Okay.
The same with recreation. All of rec center will come out of money earned that fiscal year in, from the rec center or out of the fund balance. Golf courses, again, we have $500,000 in there for more permanent repairs to Centennial Golf Course on the irrigation. We had that in last year and just left it in there, didn't spend it because we're not at a place yet where we have a long-term lease. And so that will be in there, but all of these will come out of golf course fund balance.
And Mayor, I just want to make a comment. I didn't give you any grief on that mower.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
well, I appreciate it, yeah. The grant funds, and so there is
grants.
revenue coming in. And then we have a small expenditure that goes out, 7.4%. That would come out of the park fund balance.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. And then, of course, impact fees are paid out of park impact fees.
Okay. Thank you for going through that. I just wanted to make sure, because there were times that I wasn't sure if out of Gen Gov, we had some equipment coming out of General Gov, like the mower and stuff, but nothing's coming out of General Gov. Okay, thank you for the review.
Mayor Quinn,
Appreciate it. Yes.
before you sit down, again, I know that we spoke earlier in the year as far as on the concept. With the COVID thing, it kind of, and the plans were taken from my office, so if we can sit back down again, I'd be happy to reconceptualize the concept so that you have that as a basis for your selection process.
Okay, yes, I'll have the RFQ forwarded to you, then we
Okay.
can get back together and meet.
Yeah, if we can just sit down and we just do the onion skin over those drawings, come up with a concept for you that you
Okay.
want to be able to present to them.
Okay, thank you.
So is there any further discussion? We have a motion and a second? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Munchy?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
And Bruder?
Yes.
Okay, so now what we have left on our agenda, we have number 5.5, which says Gen Gov Vehicles, Facilities, and Equipment. So,
Mayor, we haven't okayed all the public works yet, right?
I have to say, I don't know. I'm
So
struggling.
the
I'm
wa-
sorry, I'm
I
struggling.
know, I know the one question I have is that remodel building, which is half, 500,000 from water and 500,000 from the irrigation. So I don't believe we have approved that.
So,
Thought we approved it, yeah.
I just went down to that point. Let me get back to that page. I'm sorry.
what page was that? Was that
I
27?
okayed down to 26 on to 27. We didn't okay the capital fund. The mayor was questioning on the capital fund or the water fund. Irrigation and wastewater has not been approved unless I slept through that.
No, you're correct. You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
So, maybe at this point, we go back to these three areas, and then let's come back to the Gen Gov budget, that one, because that's listed on here, and then we'll figure out what's left after that. So, on the water fund, are there any questions on this one? Or irrigation or wastewater?
We have the capital fund we haven't done either, correct?
Correct.
On this one with the vehicles, we were discussing the police vehicles and all.
Gen
Well,
Gov
we're-
budget.
That's all Gen Gov. Okay, thanks. And so I guess, Mayor, questions on the, there again, I have this packet that I've been given by Public Works as far as kind of this remodel and with $1 million, and I guess I'm questioning a little bit whatever I did with it, what this all entails for $1 million for this remodel. So whoever can help me with that, with water, is that you, Jeff, or Nate's on? I know we discussed this a little bit in past, that I had some questions on it, and you gave me this nice book and everything, but,
Yeah, I can answer the street portion of that if you'd like.
well, it's mainly what this remodel, which is gonna be between the two funds, irrigation and water, are each putting in $500,000, right? That's my question, is regarding that building, and whether Patrick or whoever.
And if I can say, I'm going to
Yeah.
say something, and I don't mean to throw my staff under the bus, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
So it's not coming with my support or my endorsement, because whatever you're looking at, I haven't seen.
Well, it's kind of like the fire. I mean,
have not
a
seen it.
remodel for $1 million sounds pretty plush to me, so.
You know what, I hate to say it, but I have not seen the book that you're looking at. I don't have a copy of it, and so I really have a hard time supporting something that
I think it's on 37
that's
or
okay.
something like that.
I'm not going to look at it right now, because I wouldn't make a decision this fast, and so,
I'm not familiar with it, so would be a question made.
I'm not ready to move forward with it, because I don't know where it is in the plan. For us to spend $1 million on a building when we've talked ever so briefly about needing to expand, but I've never seen the plan. And so principally, I have a really hard time putting forth a budget, even $500,000, if we've not really talked about it.
Yeah,
So-
Mayor and City Council, we did a concept plan for the streets facility, the fleet building.
Right.
And they looked at the water building. So that plan you're looking at is the water.
Yeah,
building.
existing buildings repurposed, I believe is,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So yeah, that's the question is.
And so that's what I need help with, so, before I will support.
I don't know what to say. It doesn't have my support because I'm not aware of it. And that's just really, really awkward, and that's a faux pas here, that I've never seen the document. So for us to be bringing it forward with a $500,000 request.
That's $1
that-
million between the two, it's $1 million.
Between the two. Well, because I see the 500,000.
It's $500,000 for water, and $500,000
$500,000.
irrigation, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick, I'm sorry, Mayor, is that something you can guide, or whatever the mayor wants to do on it? I just-
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, this is part of that master plan for fleet and streets and water that was just finished. And we had discussed it, and I think I forwarded the document over to you.
I've not seen
However,
this.
John, but
What they're looking at.
This packet, this is what Public Works gave me when I went and met with them regarding the budget.
But the thing is I was under the impression that Public Works was going to present these projects.
Yeah.
Because the master plan draft, you know, after we've already finished the budget. So there really was not adequate time to really put a lot of time into presenting it to you on the executive side and really getting your buy-in. So I guess the thing is it's kind of too little too late, unfortunately, because it would have needed quite a bit more presentation from individual departments. Facilities worked on managing the consultants, managing the meetings, and helping to manage the scope. And this was a revision to an older master plan, so that we had, going forward for all these groups, they had a plan in place and a phase plan. However, we had never gotten to the point, even you and I, of even being able to talk about it, because we had just gotten this, you know, within the last 30 days or so.
So, I mean, I would be willing to okay everything except for that project in these two budgets, but that, I'd be willing to make a motion for that, but I won't approve this. I'm gonna make a motion.
And I'm sorry, I can't.
I think Nate's available.
Yeah, I don't see how we're gonna accomplish this today, though, so.
Is that a motion?
Well, I would make a motion to, so we're talking about water fund, irrigation, and wastewater, correct? Is there something else I'm not seeing that goes on the next page? Get my glasses back on somewhere. Oh, here they are in my head.
So can I ask, I just want to ask a question on the vehicles, because normally we have a little bit more discussion internally on fleet plan, replacing 2 light-duty pickups, one that's 10 years old and one that's 11 years old, which they've just barely hit their limit. One hasn't even hit its limit. Well, it will be hitting its limit. So this is coming out of water. I guess it's okay. I think one of the challenges that we have, and I'm just looking at these, is that when our citizens see us driving new trucks around and we're not hardly hitting 10 years, and yet we're increasing fees and they're out of jobs, it doesn't look good. And so does anybody know, like, the mileage on the trucks, is there a reason that we, need to do that? I can understand a 2001, so.
The fleet plan is based on age of vehicles, so
Right.
going for our fleet plan, we've designed the whole system based on that, because after parts get old, they're harder to find, and they're more expensive to maintain, so that's just part of our fleet plans. That's
And
where
I'm
that comes
familiar,
from.
it's just the
Yeah.
one isn't even at 10 years yet.
And that's a 10 to 12 years is where we're shooting for in their vehicle.
Right, okay. Well, I'll leave it at, it's the will of the council on it, it's,
Well, Mayor, I've always, and that's the same way, going back to the mowers and so on, you know, I'm the type of person that, you know, until my vehicles are pretty much, I can't find parts or whatever the case is, then I realize Doug has explained this to me, and
Yeah.
That,
Is
you
Doug,
know,
is
this-
Doug out there, by the way?
so I've always struggled with that, but then, you know, I have a lot of confidence in Doug and so on, so he seems, you know, the main thing, what you just explained, which I've heard several times before, is the parts and so on, but, I mean, it's not, you know, I drive a 2009, I did have a 97, so I know it's, but I'm not talking about fleet, you know.
Yeah, and then if we push it off to the next year, that's the whole plan is set up that way. It gets back into the asset management program. So we're pushing off a vehicle next year and doing so, but I understand what you're saying.
This is a, you know, this is a different year. And so that's what I, you know, I think the perception is everything, what people see. And I think I hear probably once every 2 months about all those nice vehicles sitting over there and they don't seem to be moving. So I'm sure they move. At least they're not taking them home. Okay, but anyway.
Mayor Kling, I think those vehicles are run pretty hard. But the reason why I think Doug said that he wanted to have this new program is why we don't pay an expensive amount of rehabilitation for those vehicles, mechanics and stuff. But I agree with you. I think we need to hold the line on this one. It seems like if we hadn't had the COVID thing, prices are terrible, everything's going downhill. Maybe we should wait on this one. Yeah.
Wait on what?
Well, I think we should, I don't think we should be buying new vehicles, simple as that. I think we need to run those to the ground if we have to. I mean, my truck has 118,000 miles on it, and it's a 2010, and I have okay with it. But it's not driven like the city drives theirs.
We've got quite a few. Typically, we have always had a fleet presentation. And for some reason, this time, we don't have a fleet presentation because we've got, good grief, we've got at least 800,000. I'm just looking here, at least 800, and I'm just trying to find it in this one thing, $800,000 in vehicles, just vehicles. So, and one thing I will say in here, I see that we're purchasing a CSI van off of lease. What I've heard about that is you're paying pennies on the dollar, and I want to say good for you. That's a wise thing to do. When we can purchase vehicles off of the lease plan, usually they're ones that we would want, and so I think that's a wise thing to do. So purchase 4 CSO vehicles in the current fleet. Can somebody explain that? So we're replacing, but we don't know the year of the vehicles or anything about them. So.
Mayor, this is a Fleet here. If you can hear me right now, I don't know if I'm coming through or not. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
If I could just jump in, those 4 CSO vehicles currently are Crown Victorias that were refurbished once police cars. So they had exhausted their life. We refurbished them and reallocated them to CSO. And for the duties that the CSOs provide, a pickup truck makes much more sense when they are in the position now where they need new vehicles anyway. So that was why 4 pickups were recommended for CSO.
Do you want to go? I don't know if you have this sheet in front of you. So we've got, I would assume you're familiar with all of them. The first one is purchase 2 Ford F-150 vehicles for code compliance. Didn't we do a new vehicle code last year?
Yeah, and the code compliance vehicles, they were really behind the ball. They were quite outdated. The 2 vehicles that we have planned for code is one is to replace a 2006 Ford Ranger and a 2003 F-150. And again, talking about the 10-year life or 20-year life, that's really predicated on whether or not a division considers their vehicles critical or non-critical. Again, in respect to Councilor Haverfield's comment about architectural design, I know what we can maintain and what we can't maintain. When a vehicle approaches 10 years old, parts become more difficult just because best business practices being that the average vehicle age is 11 years old on the street. Parts houses and suppliers begin to start dropping those models. So it's not so much mileage accumulation as it is when an airbag goes out or a seatbelt goes out or a turn signal switch goes out, that vehicle is effectively deadlined because that part just simply isn't available. And if a division considers that vehicle critical, our rules are that we can have it back on the road within 48 hours. Now, the discussion of service level can be perhaps those vehicles shouldn't be considered critical. And maybe I'd do a deep dive on why those vehicles are considered critical. Maybe they don't need to be. But those trucks they don't really last 20 years if they're not considered critical. But that 20-year life is when we anticipate waiting 2 or 3 weeks or longer for a part that we have to special order from back east or something like that. So that's why there's that age difference between 10 years and 20 years on critical vehicles.
So I guess, and let me ask one other question. The 8 police patrol vehicles and the Crown Victorias, boy, it'll be nice not to have those anymore because they're old. And I totally get that. So the fleet plan to replace 8 police patrol vehicles, what are those that we're going through?
The 8 patrol vehicles with last year when police added a 4th shift, we were unable to retire the vehicles that we had queued for retirement, and those are the 8 Crown Victorias that have hung on because of that 4th shift that was added. So these 8 vehicles are flushing out the final Crown Victorias that are in frontline police fleet.
So Mayor, just a off-the-wall suggestion. So we have a council meeting coming up on a week from today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any, I mean, I wouldn't think it'd take that. Is there any way that we can postpone as far as approval on the vehicle aspects and have Doug come and at least make that 15-minute presentation or take questions, whatever?
We
during
certainly
that
could, and it's up to you. And if you guys want to go ahead and approve them, it's totally up to you. I just had some questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would
That's
like
it.
to hear, and if you can do a little more of a deep dive, which I believe I just heard him mention, into these vehicles between now and then, it's just a suggestion, so.
I can't think of any reason why we cannot do that. Is there any reason from a
Just a question, we talked
timeline?
about not being able to go down, not being able to go up or go down.
Right.
Do you need to approve them subject to secondary review on the secondary?
That could happen too. I'm fine with
Better
that.
idea. That's a really good idea. That way we are done and then we can come back and review it. Thank you. That's great.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. So what's the will of the council? Because I think you were ready to move. Actually,
Well, that was general gov though, the one, the police, the capital fund was general gov, right? You said?
Yeah,
it's,
I was ready to make a motion on the water fund, irrigation, wastewater, and the remainder, public works, except for on the existing building remodels.
Okay.
So that was my motion. That I thought, if you want to include this other one, we can, but I thought that sounds like another motion to me.
so is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Public Works, the Water Fund, the Irrigation Fund, and the Wastewater Fund.
Environmental compliance, or what?
And environmental-
I'm sorry, that's 22. Okay. Forget that.
Okay. Is that correct?
But without the condition was without the remodel of the.
Without
building.
without
Yeah,
the
without
two
the-
remodels, the one from 500,000 from water fund and 500,000 from irrigation, yes. Till we have
Yes.
further discussion.
Could somebody either clarify or we go back and look on Nathaniel's records because we're still under capital budget review, is that correct?
We're still under capital budget review.
So 5.1 was wastewater and transportation is 5.2, and they were already covered in a combined motion by Councilman Bruner and seconded by Councilman Bauer.
But they
So
did
I'm
not
confused.
include these particular items.
Those departments were not included in the public works last time.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion or questions on this motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
and Burton.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do GenGov, which is this that we were talking about for 740, and then I'll let you, then I think we have the 476,000.
Yes, I guess the easiest place to take a look at Gen Gov would be on Doug's screen.
Scroll back up to that.
He's highlighted all of the projects. There is a project listing by type for the entire 788,000. Here we go. So
So this first group right here, all of these that I've highlighted in yellow add up to the 1.524 million that we showed on the general gov. This first group right here is the $476,700 for capital fund facilities, all of these structures right there. The second group is kind of what we've been talking about now, the capital fund for fleet. It's all the Ford F-250, two F-150s and so forth, all the way down to the animal control. That's 740,500, all the vehicles. And this third group right down here, excluding this last line, I couldn't figure how to get it unhighlighted, but it includes these three line items for the capital fund fire department, that contribution, the Motorola radio and the police department every year, all total adds up to be $1,524,000 in the general capital budget.
And we've already approved the 75,000,
That's right.
so it would just be the others, okay? And I would speak to the city hall things, if you can go back up there. So, let me see, the security camera replacement we've had on for a couple of times. The fire alarm, these really need to be done together. I've talked to Patrick about them. And there's going to be cost savings if we do things together all at the same time. The security access control, the elevator needs to be done. It's just, I think there was a phase 1 and it's one of those that needs to be done, but the security access control, the fire alarm system, the security cameras, and the electrical infrastructure, that all really needs to be done together because there's cost savings that we can achieve if we do them all at the same time. So that's just a comment on those. But I think this is the year that we've got to get those done.
They've been put off for multiple years already.
They have been for several
When I got
years.
here last year, they were high priorities, and we still managed to push them off, so.
Mhm. So then are we making a motion?
Yeah, and just that we're going to review the, we're going to accept a review of the vehicles, right?
Go ahead.
No, you do it.
Okay.
It's your baby.
Nope, go
I'll
for
second
it.
you. I'll second. We want to get out of here.
Okay, so the general gov, all this in yellow, I'll make the motion that we do approve with, up to the costs that have been projected, but we will review the vehicles and so on for further review. But at this point in time, that we will accept the general gov capital projects as listed.
Second. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding that motion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Everfield,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
and Bruner.
Yes.
And I think that we got through everything in capital, that we didn't miss anything. Is that
We
correct?
did not miss anything except for the request via helicopter.
Gee.
With a straight face.
That's why you're not in vehicles. You're getting a helicopter.
Ed, you did a good job, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry, the end was a little hard, but you did a great job. You are to be applauded.
Thank you.
Great job. We do have one more action item before we go, but I do want to pause real quickly and say this was a heavy lift. There was a lot of change this year in the budget. And in some ways, I hope it was an easier process for council.
I like it.
So thank you. I think we've tried to be careful in the budget and not do any excessive increases. It's kind of tough at the end here, but next year we'll probably shift capital up a little bit. But other than that, I like the process.
And Mayor, I appreciate your, care for the public. I think on my phone today, I just read something about all the municipalities that they're just increasing their budgets like crazy. Nashville was 46% is what the mayor's projecting as an increase because of all the because of COVID. So thank you for leading the community.
You are welcome. I tell you what, we need to come together. I've got a good team, and I really appreciate it. Doug, your leadership, Ed, and then our directors and the team here, thank you very much, because you guys went along with us in the effort, and we can't do it without everybody being on board. So the last item on the agenda is 6.1. That's an action item. The governor had suggested a tax rebate based upon funding that they were going to use federal COVID dollars to reimburse the cost of public safety, that in turn would be turned around and provided as a tax rebate to the citizens. The counties have asked that they would extend that. There's been the deadline to the 24th. I don't know what that decision was. There's been considerable discussion surrounding this particular topic and the cost to the county to actually implement it. That said, what they're looking for from us is that if we're going to participate, that we need to notify them by the 17th, which is by Friday, but it's not binding. Again, Doug has said in numerous meetings, and visited with Canyon County Treasurer Tracy Lloyd, Steve Onofre from Canyon County, with, I think you were in the meeting with Alex from the governor's office, and there have been a lot of discussions around this. The details are not worked out yet, but they assure us that we can, once we put in, that doesn't mean you have to do it, they just need to know if there's an intent. So we meet all the qualifications, and we already had before it was even suggested. So I guess the question is it the will of the council to go ahead and let the governor's office know that we would participate in that property tax rebate that would fund the police department budget, a percentage of it, because we don't know, there was $200 million. We don't know how it's going to be allocated and what we would get back, but it would then funnel through and somehow end up in a tax rebate.
Mayor, I understand there's some legal challenges possibly by some counties, but yes, I would
Yes.
make the motion that we accept that offer.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call?
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Munchy,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
and Bruder.
Yes.
Perfect. Council, thank you so much for your commitment to a day away from your day jobs. That's a lot. So it was a long day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next year we'll charge for you to be able to.
Thank you. Oh, and I would stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.